Anyway, welcome into another live edition of Couz's Corner. In this episode, we're going to talk about why it is time for a change for a new coaching staff in Morgantown. Why is it time? We're going to talk about that in this show, which is brought to you by Cats Cantor, Stone Street of Buckner, and BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino. I'm also going to give you a couple arguments as to why it's not a good time to make a change. But I think I can make it a good argument as to why making a change is more beneficial to the program than not making a change. I think I have a good list of items here that will help me make my argument. Before I do that, though, I want to give a special shout out to one of my sponsors. So hang on, we'll be back here in just a few seconds. Since 1931, the attorneys at Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. And guess who's joining the show? Jonathan, what's up, brother?
What's going on? I guess I'm like a on-call doctor or something tonight. It's been a who knew on a cold, snowy Thursday night. Had to get my day straight that we'd be doing this, but gosh, here we are again, right?
Yeah, it is. Quick shout out to a couple comments. Ethan Schaefer, thank you, man. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. Thanks to Veritax for reminding everybody to smash the like button. And yes, credit Eric Butner over at Cats Cantor, Stone Street and Butner. Thank you, Alan Boy 23. Must be a local guy like me and Jonathan there to know who that was. All right. For those of you watching on X, by the way, don't forget to come over to my YouTube channel after the show, subscribe, and watch some of my previous videos, including the one Jonathan and I did that was posted today, where we do our Gold and Blue breakdown, previewing the game. So before I get into my list of reasons why it's time for Neal Brown to go, Jonathan, the first thing I want to talk about is something you and I were chatting about before when Neal Brown somewhat stepped in it again tonight, I guess you could say, on his radio show. And I'm going to play the comments real quick because I do have them teed up ready to play. Good. Hopefully I'm not violating any copyright laws here, but this is over at WVUsports.com. But I'm going to play them, and then they're not that long, and then you and I will talk about it.
Lou Squirrel Hill with season.
Squirrel Hill, where's that at? You know that?
Oh, yeah, it's Pittsburgh.
Is it?
Pittsburgh area there. With senior day approaching, 5-5 record, many fans feeling disappointed. What do you say to those frustrated with the program's progress?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm not going to speak for the fans because last time I did, that turned into a shitstorm. So, I'm not talking about that.
Hopefully the delay was working. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but so I'll avoid that. Here's the thing. What I'll say is there's nobody more frustrated with our inconsistencies than myself and our players, and that's the deal. And I'm quick to point out, I was telling somebody this the other day, it's if you're not careful, the negativity will make you believe that, we haven't done anything. We're sitting here, while we know we're going to be 5-5, we're not 0-10. And so we've done some good things in some games we've won, but we haven't been consistent. And that's a frustrating thing because I think in the game of football, one of the highest compliments you can play a team or you can play an individual is that you're consistent, which means you know what you're getting out of them every single game, every single practice, etc. And we've not been a consistent football team. And so that's disappointing. That's frustrating. The positive side of that is we have 2 games. And some teams peak, some teams play their best at different times. It's our hope and our expectation. We play our best football in the last 2 weeks of the season, starting here with UCF.
Yeah. In Ohio.
All right. So he kind of stepped in it again. I did get a kick out of the joke that he that he said beforehand. That was pretty funny. I gotta say. And he's not wrong.
No,
he did step in it. But What were your thoughts when you? First off, shout out to you for sending me that quote, and then I went back, obviously, and you and I, we wanted to hear it for ourselves to make sure we didn't misquote it. But what were your initial thoughts when you heard that?
Yeah, so I think it was a little bit more on our mind because we for those, again, you kind of touched on it. We recorded our Gold Blue Breakdown show last night after the basketball game, kind of late, and we kind of talked on air and talked a little bit off air about some of his comments, and so it was fresh on our mind. And then when I got a message this evening and pretty much said, "You're not going to believe what he said," and it gave me a quote, and I immediately texted you and said, "You're not going to believe this," but we wanted to be fair, and we wanted to wait for the show to be over so we could listen to it. Yeah. So first off, I will say I actually got a kick out of the first part of it too. Look, we can be frustrated and upset, and we'll kind of break this down a little bit. I actually didn't mind the first part of it. I didn't mind the joke, if you will. And I would also say, Couz, that he took ownership, right? Which is nice. Yep. There's some other people out there that have around the program that have maybe blamed the players and some NIL stuff, and he took ownership. And again, credit him. He seemingly always does, right? I think my biggest problem is, and it's two main points. One of them is, and I'll touch on it. It was actually the latter, but I'll say it briefly. People play their best football at different times, and we hope ours are these final 2 weeks of the season. Man, that's not what anybody wants to hear when you're 5-5.
No.
Let's just call a spade. When you're 5-5 and you're an underdog to a 4-6 football team at home, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that. So that was my first thought. The second thought would be it just screams that he's okay with just being whatever, almost tone deaf, right? I mean, it's our tone deaf. It's like, yeah, we're 5-5 almost. And I don't want to go too deep on it, but it's almost seemed like he was just proud of the fact that they were 5-5. Like, hey, we could be 0-10. We're 5-5. Calm down, because I love it.
I don't love it either, but I will tell you, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think what he's trying to do, and again, he's totally missing the mark. I think he's trying to prevent the negativity from creeping into the locker room, and he's doing that. And obviously, if he's going on air and on a microphone, he wants to try to portray that positivity and that optimism, right? Because he knows players may be listening, players' families may be listening, whatever. So I think that's what he's trying to do. But I'll be honest with you, I think it's to the point now there's nothing he says that we're not going to criticize because we're so frustrated. But you got to read the room a little bit. And I know Neal's he seems like one of those, he's just an optimistic kind of guy, right? Yeah. And at least he seems that way. But man, I just don't, he's just tone deaf a little bit. And I can't help, but I don't know if he doesn't see it or just doesn't care. I actually lean towards the latter, to be honest.
Probably at this point,
because he's done it so many times now. But and at times it almost feels like he's sticking her nose in it a little bit. But again, that might be my frustration coming out. I don't know. But yeah, he definitely shouldn't have said that. Probably he should have. I think it. I don't know.
I just think it's so preventable. Couz, right? I mean, and it's the little things that you and I talk about, and we're on here tonight because we're discussing a quote or two, but it's more than that. It's how many times have we heard it, right? And what I've said many times on here, and I've said on social media, and when you're Neal Brown and you're 6 seasons in, you're barely above 500. your record against top 25 teams should have it handy, 3-18, I believe. When here's one I posted today. They've lost their last 3 games at home, and you were outscored 122-69 in those games. And what I just mentioned, you're an underdog at home to a 4-6 football team because you're not getting the benefit of the doubt. And so it could just be so easy for him to say, to answer this fan's question, I'm not happy. The players aren't happy. Daggone it, we're going to fight like heck Saturday to get a win. And you could leave it at that, but he just continues to go.
Yeah, I was going to say he could have not said it. Just don't say it. Just say we're all frustrated. We get it. But like you said, he just continues to talk. And it's like the more he talks, the more he steps in it,
Yeah.
Yeah. As someone who works in sales for a living, it's easy to fall into that trap at times as a salesperson. You want so bad to sell your product or to make that potential customer like you or want to buy from you that you tend to overspeak.
Yep. You can talk too much.
And you actually talk yourself out of a sale.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he's doing here in this case.
Yep. Sometimes you can do more with less.
Yep.
And you can, we're kind of from the same background, outside of the West Virginia, world. And so, you can talk way too much. And I think it's just part of the problem. I just think again, are we just kind of nitpicking here? Potentially, but I think it just goes to the greater point of this isn't the first, it's not the second, third, fourth, or whatever you want to call it. And that's probably even this year. You're just not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I said last night on our show, we're living in a time right now with this fan base where there's so much frustration because there's I don't even know where to start. There's head coaches making comments, getting fans riled up. There's assistant coaches making comments to media members online. Mm-hmm. There's fans fighting with fans. There's disagreements over attendance. There's people selling tickets saying they're not coming back. And through all that, it's wrapped around a pretty passionate, dedicated fan base that feels like they've A, got nowhere to turn, and B, nobody's listening to them. And so many people are frustrated and in a tough spot. And when you hear this tonight, as minor as it potentially could be, it just further validates the point that I'm just not sure that Neal can continue here. It's going to ride on these last 2 games. Mm-hmm. We also I'm not trying to go down a rabbit trail, but we discussed off air today as well about what this future could look like here at literally game by game at 5-7 compared to 6-6 could be making a difference. So I just I think it goes to the greater point that I just don't know how that you can continue into next year with the current setup with Neal Brown leading your program. Yeah. It just seems to be even little things just cause unraveling,
Yeah, exactly. I've got and I'm going to let you go here, and I know you're on a tight schedule, but in a minute I'm going to get into I've got a list of 6 reasons here of why there needs to be change, and I'm going to go over those in just a minute. But first, I want to thank you for coming on here, and I wanted to get your takes on these comments since you were the one who presented them to me. Real quick, plug yourself and your show and what you've got going on X.
Yeah, so I'll just say you can follow me on X at Jonathan K. Martin. There's no H in Jonathan, but hey, and I'm not just plugging you because it's your show. Everybody's here for Couz's Corner, and you do a great job. I'm glad to be a small part of it. And so anytime I can get on to discuss it, I'm proud to. So, and as you always say, let's go Mountaineers, even in these rough times, man.
That's right.
It's going to be all right.
It will be all right. Jonathan, thanks for hopping on here, man. Hey. I always enjoy going the back and forth with us, man. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So
yeah, you got it. Enjoy the rest of your night, Couz.
You too, brother. Take care.
See you.
All right. Thanks to Jonathan for coming on. I wanted him to perfect timing because I wanted to talk about those comments that were made just a few minutes, really, or an hour or so, really, before we started the show, or a couple hours before the show. Anyway, just Neal Brown just stepped in it. He talks too much. He needs to just stick to it, saying, "Hey, we're disappointed. We got to do better. We're going to go out and try to do that this weekend and move on." But right now, I do have another guest coming here in a few minutes, but first I want to go over this list I have for you guys. Let me address, I do have a new channel member, Jonathan Bales Outdoors. I want to thank you, or Jonathan Bayless Outdoors, I guess. I thank you for becoming a paid VIP member. Thank you for joining the VIP club here at Couz's Corner. I've got a few channel members in the house. WVU Fan 13 says, I don't think, did they have fun? Great weather. Comments that he turned into the face of West Virginia this season. Or I think he did, yeah. He thinks that turned into the face of the program, and that's actually a very fair statement. Daniel Gigax, who's also a VIP member, says Las Vegas setting the line where WVU is an underdog at home. Never happened until recently. And I think Jonathan Bayless says, sad when he says he doesn't want to address the fans and that he is willing to settle for the best games being the last two. Yeah, again, I think he's trying to stay positive as much as possible to keep the players from going down that rabbit hole of negativity. But I just don't, it's just the wrong timing. You know what I mean? It's wrong timing. But anyway, this list, first off, a couple reasons. There's a couple arguments that are out there as to why Neal Brown will not be fired this season. And these are, if he's not let go, these will be the reasons, right? Number one, we have a lame duck president, Gordon Gee, who hired Neal Brown or helped make the decision to hire Neal Brown, and who reportedly really likes Neal Brown, is retiring in July. So June or July. So do you want to hire a football coach knowing you have a new president coming in about 6 or 7 months, and then kind of forcing that coach on that new president? That's one way to look at this. Okay. And that is one argument that I've heard as to why he may not get fired. Argument two and 2 and 3 kind of tie together, but it's all tied to the finances, right? You've got the finances. I've talked about it more than I'd like to here. West Virginia's not in a great place financially. We've got the house settlement coming down the pipeline where they're going to have to pay their athletes upwards of around $20 million a year. And then, so that's a concern. And they would all have to pay Neal, a buyout that's somewhere in the $8 or $9 million range. And then the third reason, which kind of ties into that, is not only are you paying his buyout, you also have to pay the assistant buyouts. Now, a lot of the assistant coaches are on 2-year contracts. Their contracts wouldn't be up until the end of next year. So, or end of next season. So if you wait one more year, not only does Neal's buyout reduce by about $4 million because he's coached an extra year, but you also save a few million by not having to pay off the contracts of the assistant coaches because their contracts will just be expiring. You won't have a buyout to deal with. So you would save even more money if you wait another year, right? But then I'm going to go into my list here, and it's going to all kind of tie into it as to why I think not making a change is actually worse than the ramifications of what I just said. Freezing Apes, thank you for the $5 super or $10 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, hey, I know our goal was a Big 12 title this year, but we're 5-5, so it's all good. Neal Brown, probably. That's not exactly what he said, man, but it's definitely not that far off. But here are the reasons why I think, number one, the fan base is absolutely done. They're done. I don't care if you win the next 2 games. I don't care if you go 6-6, 5-7. The fan base is absolutely out on this. At least 90% of them are out on this coaching staff, right? That can impact your season ticket sales for next year. That can impact your merch sales going into next year, because we all know if fans are excited, they're going to buy more merch, right? They're going to buy those season tickets. You get less fans at games, you sell less concession stand, which affects your vendors, right? It could even impact your TV ratings. And in today's world, where TV ratings are driving a lot of decisions being made by networks who are making decisions on what conferences they want to do deals with, it can affect your TV viewership, which could affect you down the road up in the big picture of conference realignment and where things are heading in the future, right? That's why it may be more costly not to fire him, because you would be losing TV revenue money potentially down the road. You could be losing merch sales, ticket sales, all of that. And I think at the end of the day, that could all add up to being a higher amount of money than what you had to pay for his body. Not to mention, if donors stop giving to the program because of him, if people stop giving to Country Roads Trust because of it, that's going to be an even worse issue and will drive the program even further behind and further down the pecking order, I guess, for lack of a better term, than they already are. So reason number 2, roster turnover. After this season, West Virginia is losing a lot of seniors, a lot of guys who are going to be moving on to the NFL or graduating. Garrett Green, number 1, 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen, and it's possible Tomas Reemack leaves too. He is eligible to go to the draft. He may choose to try his hand at the draft. So you could lose your entire starting O-line at least, and you'll lose at least 4 of them anyway. Your entire starting defensive line will be out. You're losing, like I mentioned, Garrett Green. That's a lot of that in itself is a lot of people to lose. You're losing Garnett Hollis. You're losing Aubrey Burks. Unfortunately, is out for the season, but he's going to be. He's not coming back. There are a few more guys that I'm sure I'm leaving off, but you're losing a lot of pieces. So why not go ahead and do a rebuild now? Because, and I know, yes, we have a lot of skill position guys coming back potentially, but when you have to rebuild in the trenches, and we do have some experience coming back on the D-line, but we're also losing about half the depth. So that's a concern. And I know a lot of people are going to make the counter argument, yeah, because if you change coaches, you're going to lose guys to the portal. I don't think it's worth the risk. I do think it's worth the risk, man. You cannot hold the program back going forward for, a handful of players. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. And hopefully you hire a coach that's able to retain a lot of your top guys. And then the portal moves, let the new coach come in. If you make the change soon enough, your new coach can come in and make moves in the portal, right? They have a chance to bring in their own players or retain the ones they want to keep, give them more time to work with. And then recruiting could suffer. West Virginia's not been knocking. Neal's recruiting is kind of starting to drop a little bit anyway. If he stays around with all the negativity around the program, it's going to get worse. And then he's going to have a hard time hiring a defensive. I didn't even write this down, but he's going to have a hard time hiring a defensive coordinator. What defensive coordinator wants to come in to a program knowing the coach may get fired in a year? So it's going to make it hard, unless they want to keep Jeff Couz on full time. And is that the right move? I don't know. Reason 3, you need to show the fan base that you care. Now that kind of ties into the first reason. You want fans to go to games, and all that. But you need the fan base to be excited going into the 25 season, man. You want there to be hype, just like there was going into this year. You need that hype. It draws attention, not only within your fan base, but the outside narrative. You want to drive the outside narrative. You want the onlookers from the outside to say, hey, West Virginia's doing something they're serious about football there. You want Brett Yormark to look at West Virginia and say they're serious about football. They're doing what it takes to win. You want the networks to see it. You want, the ESPNs of the world. You want those people to see it. And then NIL and MAC donations, right? You make a change. You get a coach in there and a staff in there that the fans are excited about. They're going to donate more money. The donors will donate more money, right? I think you actually could get more money in by making a change than you would by keeping Neal. And that could offset some of the losses where you have to pay buyouts. The declining enrollment at West Virginia University. We all know that the football and men's basketball are the front porch to these universities. It's the best way to market your university, the best way to draw in students. I don't remember what the numbers are, but they're massive. But I saw a list the other day of how much the enrollment at Colorado has increased just since Coach Prime came there. It's remarkable. Now, obviously, we're not going to get a guy, that's a celebrity like that, more than likely. But hiring the right coach, and if that coach is successful, it will help get students in the door at West Virginia University. And the university needs that right now because the university itself is also having its own financial issues. Reason number 5, the national perception and brand taking a hit. If you continue to lose football games under Neal Brown, it's going to hurt the national reputation, and it hurts your overall brand. So again, when you look at the greater landscape of college football, with all the realignment talk and the way everything's moving, if you want West Virginia to keep their seat at the table, they need to have a strong brand. And right now the brand is unfortunately fading. The younger generations, the only thing they have to look at are old Tavon Austin highlights. We need some current highlights. We need some highlights from the past 5 or 6 years. Right now, we don't really have any to show because there really haven't been any marquee moments with this program. You need that for the national perception, and it also helps recruiting, right? If you have that. And then the sixth reason, there are no – if you right now, there are 6 or 7 or so openings in football coaching in the country. None of them are Power 4 jobs. If you make a move and be the first one to do it, you will get a head start, and you will get the best opportunity to get the best coach that's out there by being the only or at least the first Power 4 school to make a change. You have a lot more options for you. You're not competing with maybe blue blood programs and all these other things. You get a head start on it, man. This may be your time to strike. If you wait another year, you may miss out on a really good candidate. I saw my guy, Gamecock Chuck, put that in the comments earlier. College football speaker around the corner with Greg Pflugar, friend of the show, right on point, says one big advantage of making a change at head coach in this cycle is there will be low numbers of programs in P4 looking for new head coach. Mountaineers might have first, second, or third pick. Bingo. Absolutely. Thank you, Greg, for chiming in, brother. But I mean, that right there is my list of 6 reasons, and I actually think I gave more than 6. I like it. WVU Fan 13 says, I have 6 reasons: Penn State loss, Pitt loss, Iowa State loss, Kansas State loss, Baylor loss, and the stupid credit to comment. I love it. I love it. All right. Great timing. I get through my list, and my special guest pops in. And for the first time in, see, I don't know, 6 months, 5 months, whatever the number is. What's up, Paul?
What's up, man? How's it going?
My guy Mountaineer Paul in the house. It's good, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. What list were you going through?
6 reasons why it's time to move on from Neal Brown.
I saw the title. I figured that's what it was.
Yeah,
it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and it started the show out with actually the comments he made. Did you get a chance to listen to his radio show tonight?
No. What did he say? Give me the tea.
I'm gonna play it for you again.
I need it.
All right. Let me back up here a little bit to the comments.
Uh-oh. Lord have mercy. I'm scared to death. What did he say? Oh, boy.
All right. It was a question from a fan that he was answering.
Wyatt Milam, 46th game. Yeah, there's some
on.
guys. Anthony Wilson has played the
things until it's time to really reflect and think kind of in depth on those.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Lou Squirrel Hill with season.
Squirrel Hill, where's that at? You know that?
Oh, yeah, it's Pittsburgh.
Is it? Okay.
Pittsburgh area there. With senior day approaching, 5-5 record. Many fans feeling disappointed. What do you say to those frustrated with the program's progress?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm not going to speak for the fans because last time I did, that turned into a shitstorm. So, like, I'm not talking about that.
That was funny.
And hopefully the delay was working. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but so I'll avoid that. Here's the thing. Like, and what I'll say is there's nobody more frustrated with our inconsistencies than myself and our players, and that's the deal. And I'm quick to point out, I was telling somebody this the other day, it's if you're not careful, the negativity will make you believe that, we haven't done anything. We're sitting here, while we know we're going to be 5-5, we're not 0-10. And so we've done some good things.
All right. He says it ain't like we're 0-10. We're 5-5.
That's exactly why we're mediocre, man. It's exactly it right there. That attitude. I love the thing from earlier today where somebody had re-put up, and you actually told me about this the first time I heard it. I win. Google me. Right? That's the attitude that Signetti has. But Neal Brown is, we're not. It's not like we're 0-10. We're mediocre.
Yeah. Yeah. Freezing Gapes, thank you for the $10 super.
Where he's.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to read that super chat real quick. Go ahead.
If he does, damned if he don't. Go right ahead.
He is. Yeah. He is. And that's what me and Jonathan and I were talking about earlier. I had Jonathan on for a couple minutes at the beginning of the show. And, I think what Neal's trying to do is he's trying to keep that negativity out of the locker room and trying to keep a positive vibe as much as he can around the players and all that. I think that's his intent here. And I don't think I compared it to, as a salesperson, I can relate to sometimes you talk too much and you can actually talk yourself out of a sale. And I think he's doing that here. But the problem is he's done it multiple times now. And he just needs to quit talking too much. Just say, hey, we're not happy. We had higher expectations than this, but we're going to do our best to go out here and try to win these last 2 games and put something better out there and just move on. Just leave it at that. Don't try to, it's like he's trying to, I don't know, man. I don't know if he is that tone deaf or he just doesn't care anymore. I actually lean more towards that he don't care anymore, honestly. But because I think he probably sees the writing on the wall.
He saying, well, I better not say this or that. It was a shitstorm last time. And then he says that right after.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, he's either unaware of how done that sounded or tone deaf or don't care. Don't care might be a good way to go.
Yeah.
Not a good way to go, but I mean, that's a good way to assume he's going.
Yeah.
I can't believe he said that. Obviously, he's just in a spot where he can't get anything right anymore.
Yeah, and that's what I told John. I said, he's at a point now, anything he says is going to be highly scrutinized. But you need to know that going in and be he needs to be even more guarded about what he says. And I'm sure if it was up to him, he wouldn't even do these media appearances. But I'm sure he's obligated to. Daniel, the super chat from Freezing Ape says, holy crap, I thought that was just rumors. That's just embarrassing, talking about what he said.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm gonna give you my list. And a lot of people are comparing this to Jim Zorn at Florida several years ago. Do you remember Jim Zorn?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're saying it's a kind of a Jim Zorn-esque
buzz cut.
That's what Veritex had to say. Yeah.
Old buzz cut.
Oh yeah, he was. Daniel Gigax makes a great point. He says if West Virginia was 0-10, he would have been gone weeks ago. I don't know, man. I don't know if they're willing to pull the trigger mid-season. Sean Mathena, watching on X. Thank you for watching, brother. You got Veritex, the soul of Cole in the house. I got some new people in the house. Let me go over real quick the reasons I gave of why he should go. I'm not going to go. I'm just going to give the quick highlights. Obviously, the fan base is done, and it's going to impact ticket sales and all that for next year. You're going to be losing so much off your roster anyway, between the 2 offensive lines and defensive lines, and plus your starting quarterback. May as well just pull the Band-Aid off now. Recruiting's going to suffer because of all the negativity if you don't make a change. It's going to be harder to get guys out of the portal, in my opinion. 3, you need to show the fan base that you care, to give them something to be excited about going into next season. Maybe that'll increase your donations to NIL and to the MAC. 4, it'll help declining enrollment at WVU because it'll hopefully bring excitement and also hopefully a better football team. 5 was national perception. It's taking a hit right now, and it's hurting your brand at the worst possible time with college Coventry and Lyman and West Virginia trying to keep their seat at the table. And then there's no other P4 jobs open right now. You and I were actually talking about this earlier today, I think. If you do it now, you're the only Power 4 job available. You almost have your pick of what coaches you want to a degree, right? Yeah. Ones you can afford, obviously, but you have a much bigger pool to choose from, in my opinion. Do you agree with that list? Anything you want to add to it?
Man, you really heard it all. I think, as far as for reasons why we must get rid of Neal Brown, I would also say, if we don't get rid of Neal Brown, it is going to, at some point, start to impact Ren Baker. It's another reason I think that it should be done sooner than later.
That's a great point. Yep.
Because it's going to attach itself to him because he extended him. So at this point, you're as culpable for what's going on as anybody else, even though it be Gee or whoever. He's retiring there.
Right.
And I don't personally think it's Ren's fault right now, but we'll see.
It ain't. Absolutely not. And there are a few people who think it is, but I don't think it is. Veritac says, what can Brown do for you? Say bye to Motown. I thought that was funny.
It's nice to actually read some comments.
Yeah. I was trying to see. There was one here. Oh, somebody asked about Rich Rod. What are there any negatives you can think of about bringing Rich Rod back outside of what happened 17 years ago?
Outside of the fan base decision that it may cause in the beginning, I think as soon as he won a couple games, I think it would be okay. But I mean, there are unknowns. Obviously, he didn't do great the last Power 4 jobs that he had at Michigan, which was, first of all, they wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do there. It's well documented. They wouldn't really let him recruit like he wanted. They wouldn't let him run the offense like he really wanted to do it. He didn't hire the staff. He was basically limited. And in Arizona, I mean, that's a tough place to win. Over history, it's been shown. I don't know how many coaches would go there and win. And he got them in a conference championship game there. So I think, he would be high on my list personally. And maybe people our age that are in their 40s, late 30s, have that nostalgia factor with him. For me, it's partially that. But I just think, look, he can coach. He can flat coach. He's a team that started 0-3, and they won 7 straight games. That's coaching. It has a lot to do with coaching. Neal's never done something like that. He had really talented teams at Troy, evidenced by the fact that they could beat teams like LSU and Nebraska. I went back and looked. They had several NFL players on those teams, and the staff. Think about the staff members that have gone and gotten other jobs now. Summerall, Leslie was interviewed for jobs, even though he doesn't look as favorably now. Matt Moore is a guy that's probably going to take a step up wherever he goes next. He's one of there's a couple guys on the staff that are well positioned to move up, in my opinion. Chad Scott, Matt Moore, probably Jackson. There's a few guys here, that I think have done their job. It's a few key spots that have not.
Bingo. Yep. When you look at Rich Rod's record at Arizona, he was 43-35 overall, a 55% winning percentage. I mean, that's not great, but it's better than what we have right now. Right?
Yeah, it is. And it's not his brand.
No, he only had one losing season there out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out of 6 seasons. Huh. That number rings a bell. He was 8-5, 8-5, 10-4. Year 3, he had a 10-win season. We haven't had a 10-win season. 7-6 in year 4
at Arizona.
Yeah, he went 3-9 in year 5. The fan base wasn't real happy. I do remember that. And then he turned around in year 6 and went 7-6. And the only reason he got canned really was because of some off the field stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would be okay with him coming. That's all right. I'd be okay with him coming back. But I know that there are so many within the fan base that would not. That I think it would just cause too many issues and cause too much division. I just don't know that it's worth it, especially considering he's 60 years old already.
Right. There are other guys out there on the market right now too that when you look around, you and I discussing Kotelnicki and finally let me turn it down. We were discussing Kotelnicki and Garrett Riley earlier. 2 options. That was me and you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that me and you were discussing? Yeah,
it was. Yeah, this morning.
Garrett Riley and Andy Kotelnicki, I think, are both 2 guys, and Brian Hartline's another guy I have my eye on. There's a few out there that I think are well positioned to do well in this era of the portal and everything like that, and the way things are going, because they have unique offenses that aren't exactly like every other offense. You look at what TC was able to do with that Garrett Riley offense. They're doing a variation of it now with Clemson. With a quarterback that's really mobile. I love the offense that Garrett Riley's running right now. He did such a good job with Max Duggan at quarterback running that same offense. And we know what Kotelnicki's doing.
Right.
I mean, that was year one at Penn State. He didn't even really have the guys yet, and then he needs to run that.
Yeah. I've been seeing a bunch of names pop up. Brian Hartline, Tommy Reese, Dan Mullen. Just to name a few that keep popping up.
I think, Mullen is an interesting one because he did well at Mississippi State at times, but at the same time, he never won big, and it seems to me that would be like a similar job. It's not like, I mean, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I'd say we were a better job, but it's just no longer the case, unfortunately. I just think we all have to take a look in the mirror with this job and realize that it's fallen a long ways. Evidenced by the fact that, first of all, when we were at our best, nobody would take us in the SEC or ACC. And when we came to the Big 12 as an outlier and haven't performed for multiple reasons, travel being at the very top of that list, not having a home base to recruit in, obviously. I think the combination of not having a home base to recruit in and trying to convince players to play in the Big 12 have been a bad combination for us recruiting-wise, which is why we consistently sit in that, 35 to 50 range. So, I'm not trying to make all these excuses, but if you want to look at it and say, why have West Virginia fallen outside of just the coaches that we've had that really haven't performed like maybe you think they should? Well, I think it's the combination of being an East Coast team in a Midwestern league that it doesn't have a home base to recruit in, and trying to convince guys in the South, to some lesser extent Ohio, places like that, to play in the Big 12. It's just really hard to do.
Yeah, agreed, man. Agreed. Real quick, I got to give a shout out to my other sponsor, BetUS Online Sportsbook. If you're looking for a new sportsbook right now, they're offering a 50% sign-on bonus on your first deposit with promo code YouTube150. Again, promo code YouTube150. You get a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your next two deposits, up to a total of $2,000. Make sure you take advantage of that today if you're looking for a new sportsbook. You must be 18 years of age or older to play, and please play responsibly. So, what I want to talk about with you real quick, Paul, is something that you and I were going to do a show on and just hadn't had a chance to yet. This weekend, the lowest, I was looking online last night, the lowest attended game in recent memory was in, actually, I think I got it on my phone here, was in the end of the 2013 season. It was Dana's only losing season, the year they went 4-8. They were playing Iowa State in Morgantown that year. And Iowa State was another bottom feeder team. And I think they only got about 33,000 people to that game or something like it was 33,735 people. There are some people thinking that might be this game coming up Saturday could end up being lower than that. What are your thoughts on that?
I remember that game. It was a really good game. From what I remember,
it went in overtime
really
or double overtime or something. Yeah.
It was one of those classic Big 12 games. It's probably one of our 4 or 5 high scoring games ever in the Big 12. But because I remember because the crowd was a big talking point. Say that question one more time, Couz. Sorry about that.
What are your overall thoughts on it with this Saturday? What are your thoughts on the potential attendance for this Saturday, and do you think it'll be lower than that?
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't think so. The weather could play a big factor as well, but it's hard to get down to 30.
Yes, it is.
I don't want to believe that we're that far gone, but another question I ask is I wonder if they would even care, like we were talking about earlier. Would they even care if it's that low? Like the tickets are already sold, they've already made their money.
Right.
And then you see on SeatGeek and all these how cheap these seats are, and it makes me wonder, like, just a conspiracy theory I had in my head was like, I wonder if the university just went and bought a bunch and are selling them cheap on SeatGeek or something, trying to get people to fill these seats back up. You know.
Yeah.
It's a conspiracy
it's
theory, probably, but
it's all right. No, it's fair, man. And I mean, when I was looking online, I could see tickets for $7. I'm like, holy cow, that's crazy.
yeah.
But you've got a
that's what I was
combination.
saying.
The students are going to be out for Thanksgiving break, right? So there won't be a lot of students there. They're actually trying to get students there by running a deal where they're going to give away $5,000 in free tuition to somebody that's at the game or something.
Right.
I think's what I heard.
Yeah.
And then
That's true.
so then, the weather's going to be, it's probably going to be potentially snowing or raining and in the 40s, low 40s. So the weather's not going to be great. And then you've got obviously the fans being frustrated. And I saw a fan today go online and she said she had a group of 15 that goes to every game. They have their season ticket holders. They won't be going to this one, so it's
Wow.
it's just rough. And one guy said that he hasn't missed a game in 20 years. I think it was 20 years. And the only game he missed was when somebody in his family passed away, and he's not going. So, I mean, that's where we're at, man. It's a really, really, and I don't think there's any way out of it outside of bringing in a new staff. I really don't.
Yeah. If I mean, gosh, the combination of a loss and a low attendance may be the right ingredients for the pressure to really ramp up.
Right.
I know there are people that are rooting for the loss. Man, I just talked to Xavier Bosley earlier, and there are players on this team that are still looking forward to this game and have a lot at stake, have opportunities ahead of them. And I can't help but think of them, rather than my own selfish kind of wanting this thing to be over. But there is a part of me that does, just wants it to be over, wants to move on, wants to have a new coach, the excitement.
Yep.
The content.
Yep. Agreed. I said the same thing last night when me and Jonathan were recording our show. I said, I can't remember being like this. Maybe I was like this during that 4-8 season, but it's been a long time since I've just wanted the season to end because I'm just ready to move on, man. And it sucks, man, because I'll bleed gold and blue and I love my Mountaineers, but it's just getting, I'm tired of watching it, man. And back to Neal's comment, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but being 5-5, it feels like we're 0-10 right now to a degree. Does it not?
Yeah. Yeah. He says that he is. Somebody made a great point about this. Who was it? Oh, it was Drake, actually, from Locked On Big 12, which surprised me how much he actually knows about our program. He keeps a close eye on it. I guess he has to, but some of the things he says surprises me. One thing he said about Neal Brown on that show that you go on sometimes, the one that does big views that you go on sometimes.
Yeah. But College Football Addiction.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I saw him on there.
Show to talk about Neal Brown. And one thing he said was Neal Brown seems like the kind of guy that would let all these things affect him. Even though he says he's not and he's in this bubble, he comes across as the kind of guy that's very aware of all this negativity.
Yeah, I think he is.
I think it's true. I think it's true. I think he is aware of it. I can't prove it, but just based on his body language, mannerisms, and all that, if he didn't know the things people are saying, I think the reaction would be a little different than it has been, in my opinion. I think he knows, and there's a little resentment forming on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you see his body, like you said, his body language, the way his mannerisms, he just seems like he's, to me, and now maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'll be honest, I don't think he's happy either. Now maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm not inside of his head. But how could you be when you've got billboards going
not
up
at work anyway?
Right. I mean, he probably can't even leave his house right now. He can't leave his house without getting somebody wanting him fired, or you know what I mean? Think about it. He probably gets yelled at going down the street. So who wants to live like that? But anyway, And again, I do want to
That's a great
stress,
point.
I should have prefaced with this. It's not personal. Neal seems like a great dude, personally, from everything
Yeah.
I've heard about him, from everything I've, you know, the way he's been since he's gotten to Morgantown. He seems like a really good man. And
Yeah,
he does things the right way. He runs the program the right way. He checks every single box, man, but he's just not winning games enough. And he's not consistent. He's not putting an attractive product out there, not putting a competitive product out there. And something's got to go. I mean, it's just time to move on, man.
yeah. And what's crazy is we're at this point, and yet still there may be another season of it.
I don't.
Possibly.
To me, if that happens, they're slapping us in the face as fan base.
Yeah. Right.
I really believe that.
Agreed.
You've got to make it work somehow, some way. You figure out a way to make it work financially, and you go get a new coach. You've got to, man. In my opinion.
Yeah. And you got to figure out a way to make sure that coach has got $20 million to spend like everybody else. I mean, unfortunately, you extended him. You kept it. It's been 6 years, and you extended him. So, or the university's pod that it comes out of, I don't know, but maybe the MAC and Country Roads Trust are going to combine because I saw that. Did you see that early?
Yeah,
They've got an announcement coming up.
I think that's coming. Yeah.
So
I think it's
whatever they got planned.
Ren's hinted at that already before, so I think that's what the announcement's going to be.
Right. It's frustrating, though, brother.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sorry that I cut you off there.
Oh, ain't a big deal. Just talking.
Right. Yep. All right, brother. Listen, I appreciate you coming on. Let everybody know where they can find you. Most everybody on here knows you already, but go ahead and do it just in case.
Yeah, and thank you so, Cole. He said before I forget, which you should never, thank you so much, Couz and Paul, for all you do for Mountain Your Nation. That's really, at the end of the day, that's the only things I ever really want, man. You know, because I love it's like a love. I love doing it, and I know Couz does too. Locked on West Virginia, and at Paul Mountaineer on X. But the show's not Mountaineer Paul Talks Football anymore. It's now Locked On West Virginia, part of the Locked On family, which has been fun for the last couple months. We're going to keep that
growing like wildfire. So go check it out.
It's growing fast.
Jump on the train while it's still going, speeding down the tracks.
Reminds me of that, like in a wedding, how everybody gets in that train. That song.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody.
Saturday, all these questions, Couz.
What's that?
Maybe we'll have some answers on Saturday, huh?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll definitely see. Look, listen, everybody, we thank you for tuning in. I don't really have anything else to say. I've went over my list. I've gotten Paul's takes. I've gotten Jonathan's takes. Hopefully you all enjoyed the show. We've got 833 people on here between X and YouTube, one of my largest crowds yet. By the way, if you're on X, do me a favor. Once the show's over, go check out my YouTube channel. Go subscribe. Go to Mountaineer Paul, or go to Locked On West Virginia. Subscribe over there as well. And hit the like button. Thank you, Veritax. Be sure to smash the like button here, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it on the replay. The like button really helps us. I've got 3 daughters. I got 3 weddings to pay for, so hit the like button and help me pay for weddings. Love you guys. Still love my Mountaineers. I'm going to continue to beat the drum for this program and what's best for this program. Got some really cool things, hopefully on the horizon, that I'm going to try to do that hopefully will benefit the program. But anyway, don't want to get off on a tangent. Thank you all for tuning into the show. Paul, thanks for coming on, and everybody, good night. Have a top shelf day, and Q Country Roads.